everybody. Hello, Nancy, Lisa, Priscilla. Hello. Sorry, just a little delayed here. Had some little issues. All right, so for you guys listening on Spreaker, here's the spiel. Good evening. You are watching Uncharted Case Files, episode number 13, live from Ontario, Canada, with yours truly, Ryan Stacey. I am the Assistant Chief Investigator for MUFON Canada, the Provincial Director and Chief Investigator for the Province of Ontario, and I'm the Field Investigator Trainer for Canada. I also investigate everything else paranormal. I believe they're all connected, but more specifically that there's a solid connection between shadow figures and extraterrestrial abductions. And today is Thursday, December 13th, 2018. It is 8 p.m., so 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. And to date, I have officially completed 513 MUFON Canada investigations, including 15 in the last 7 days, and I have 7 cases in progress. I made it. I'm over 500. I am ecstatic with that. Check this out. Watch. Look, I haven't posted this yet. I will post it soon. I will post it soon, though. Bam! 500 cases. That is a milestone for me. For those of you who's keeping track, that I'm investigated the most in Canada. But who's counting? Just kidding. Anyway, so tonight I'm going to talk about 4 new reported cases. I'm going to touch base based on the Canadian Research Council on UFOs, and I'm going to talk about the polls that I had on for the last week. Okay, so if you are watching this live or listening to this live, please share so others can see or hear, and most importantly, don't forget to like and follow my page. All right. Okay, so let's get started. Sorry. Okay, so let's get into it here. So I have no paranormal reports today. I'm going to wait for everyone to sign on before I get into the cases. Let's see what I got for mentionables. Well, yeah, so I I saw this earlier this week. I decided to share this with you. I actually thought this was hilarious. So for you guys listening here on Spreaker, it's a picture of a black cat upside down making a historical face, and the caption says, Fluffy's exorcism was not going as well as expected. It's actually quite hilarious. So I thought I'd share some humor with you guys this week. Also, in the lodge this week was our last meeting for the season before we come back in April. And Santa paid a visit. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Yeah, that's me. That's definitely me in a Santa suit sitting in a Masonic lodge. So they weren't too happy about that, but the head honcho there said I could wear anything I want, so I guess he's going to regret that. So anyway, so that happened this week. Yeah, so I don't really have too much fancy stuff to share with you guys. So I'm going to talk about I think I'm going to talk about the polls last. Yeah, that would make sense. Hold on here. I'm talking right now. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Sorry, I had a little issue with my animals there. Okay, so we're back. All right. So there's only 4 cases this week. going to start with 96765. This one was reported 2017, July 7th. The description was a black soundless triangle. It was reported in Alberta, Canada, and I had classified this one as an unknown. Let's see if we can get the full report here. So this was a drawing that was brought in or submitted, described as a matte black, no lights, no sound, hovering for 5 to 8 minutes. For you guys listening on Spreaker, this is a triangular shape craft that appears to be three-dimensional, facing towards the right-hand side, so the point or the apex is towards the right. If you guys want to see these images, come to my Facebook page, facebook.com/theworld. Let me get the long description here. So basically, the description here from this witness describes the following. Oh, pardon me. There we go. So family was out laying in the grass, looking up at the stars, looking for satellites. All of us looked to the southeast at the same time, saw a dark black, light-absorbing triangle floating above 200 degrees southeast of us to approximately an altitude of 450 feet. The object made no noise, seemed to block out all backlight and the stars. It hovered for approximately 5 to 8 minutes while we observed it, then quickly took off due south at an incredible rate of speed. No sound, no light. There were 3 witnesses. I reached out to the witness, asked for a drawing, which is what I got here, and I got more information about the witness. So the witness is a reputable business owner, and the other witness is a doctor, and the third witness, I believe, was a law enforcement student. So yeah, so this is credible sources, and they were not anonymous in reporting this. So this is interesting. Now, I did close this as an unknown because the technology for the TR-3B does exist. We do know that the United States of America have a patent to make black triangles or triangular crafts. So I can't debunk this, or I can't say it doesn't exist, because we know that technology exists because the patent exists. So it's possible they might have seen this. So it's actually quite interesting. We get a lot of these triangular crafts. Richard Dolan is actually really interested in crafts like this. All right, so that came in. So 96839. Let's go back here. 96839, pardon me. Now, I also should mention that like, even though there's 4, these aren't the only ones that came in. These are the only 4 that have pictures that I'm able to share, or pictures or video that I'm able to share with you. So I closed 15 within the last 7 days, and I'm only showing you 4. So out of, I guess 11 of those cases didn't have pictures or anything, interesting enough to share. Just so you know. Okay, so 96839 was reported on December 6th, so last week, 2018. A cylindrical and vertical bright white while changing between ruby red and orange in Kitimat, British Columbia. And I have a video, I believe, and I'll share that with you here. Dan Jones is watching. Dan Jones is a field investigator from Ontario. How you doing, Dan? So for you guys listening, what we're doing is we're watching this object. So this this weird behavior that you see on the screen currently is unclear if that is a camera malfunction, if the camera is shaking, or if the object is moving intensely. Still under investigation. We need to figure that out. So let's watch that again. It's pretty neat. So because the screen is black, or sorry, the background is black, it's really hard to tell. I have requested a daytime photo to see what's going on, and there is mention in the long description that her camera was malfunctioning. I'm not quite sure if the malfunction means this shaking and tremoring. So I've asked in a roundabout way to describe the malfunction, and if I'm hoping that she doesn't mention the shaking here, because if she does, then that's what this was. If she doesn't, then this is very interesting, and I'm going to have to look into it a lot further. Okay, so that came in, case number 2 for this week. It's 96844. I'll bring that one in. So Stephen Brooks is watching. Hey, Stephen, buddy, how you doing tonight? I posted your Bigfoot photo there on my Instagram, and I got a lot of interest there. Thanks for drawing that. Okay, so 96844 reported October 15th, 2018 in Regina, Saskatchewan. And I have, the short description says, pretty sure I was abducted. So there's not a lot of information there. I've reached out to the witness to elaborate, but in the long description, there's missing time and woke up with this weird anomaly or rash or some sort of marking on his body. I'm trying to open it up for you. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I think there's an explanation onto what this means. So I'm going to pull that up here. I've asked the witness if they've ever considered regressional hypnotherapy. If so, I would refer them to Leslie Mitchell-Clark to get a regression session done so we can try and pry out more information if possible. So that is in the works. So the long description says, all I remember is laying in bed and hearing a humming, which since I live next to an airport isn't unusual. I'm about to fall asleep when suddenly I open my eyes, and it's about 4 hours from when I lay down. Obviously, I thought I had just been sleeping during that time, but then I noticed the odd triangle on my right leg. A few weeks later, it turned into almost a circle with a line attached, and once again, I'm experiencing missing time. Dan, he says right leg is what limb that is. I'm assuming this is a male leg. There's a lot of hair there. No. So I've reached out to the witness. I've asked if they've considered regressional hypnotherapy. He did mention experiencing missing time again. So I asked how many times has this happened, and stuff like that. So I haven't. So that was fresh. This one's fresh. I got that one today. And Dan, since you're here, I noticed your case there is still in progress. Have you made any progress with that one? How you doing? So the next one I'm going to talk about is 96920. I'm going to pull up the description here. Oh, by the way, I decided to make a mug. Anybody want one of these? This is a tester mug. Might have these at Ace. It says it's got the same logo as the shirt. It says heed the world right there. Anyways, okay, so 96920 is reported on December 5th, 2018. And the short description says, craft-like oval orb, changing shape, hovering in circles, and going up and down the same area of sky, disguising as a star. It is in progress. It happens in Scarborough, Ontario. And these are images. Dan says, no contact yet, but I will be trying to interview the witness again soon. No worries. Thanks for the update. For you guys listening to this too, Dan and I are the two most active field investigators in Ontario. Currently, we need investigators all throughout through Canada. I was going to say Canada. Through Canada. So if anybody is interested in becoming a field investigator in the entire country of Canada, reach out to me. Particularly Ontario, we could use the help. Maybe I won't do 15 cases in 1 week, but more the merrier. I just got, someone's got to do it, right? So maybe one day I'll be able to do 2 or 3 cases and do them really well. Instead of rifling through them like I have been. Anyways, okay, so the long description of these photos for 96920. Nancy, I see you said Ace Hardware. I don't understand what you mean. Could you explain that, please? All right, so we're going to go back to this image here. And the long description says, I am working on an assignment and about to go to bed. As I look out my window at the bright stars, I noticed this unusually bright star that appeared more as an object the more I gazed at it. The object was hovering in a clear sky and had different colors to it. It was primarily blue, white in color. The object caught my attention to the brightness and the way it was hovering around the same area. The craft was also moving up and down randomly, but always coming back to the same altitude in the sky. It was transforming, morphing in shape. I took pictures of it as I watched for over an hour. The craft was also emitting different shades of blue with green and purple. At times I could see what looked like radio-shaped red antennas on top of the craft. It was also emitting thin beams of light, almost like it was scanning the ground. As for movement speed, it was very quick and made maneuvers that did not seem physically possible. For example, it darted up and down, changed direction from side to side, but always went back to hovering in the same spot. After viewing this craft for about 10 minutes and realizing that I must be looking at a UFO, I had slight chills. I went and got my dad to come and look. Before this event, I had never seen a UFO before and certainly nothing close to it. I eventually went to sleep and the object was still in the sky around 2:30 a.m. So I have reached out to the witness and asked for the address, the drawing, the trajectory, because I don't have any of that. I need that information to do a thorough investigation. Dan Jones says, could be starlight refraction, looks familiar. Yes, Dan, I agree with you, but we do not have an address for this one. So as soon as we get an address, what we'll do is we'll open up Stellarium and we'll be able to find, pinpoint in the sky and check to see if there is an object in the sky at the same place. But I do think this might be a star or some sort of refraction as well. But yeah. Okay, so Nancy said mug could be found at Ace. Yes, Nancy. When I do go to Ace, I think I'm going to bring a bunch of shirts, perhaps some mugs. I don't know. Some things. I don't know. It depends on who's coming. Like I might have a few things here. I'm hoping to have the playing cards done, and that might be a big seller. But the whole point too is not to make money. It's to create awareness. And we're going to touch more on the We Know You Know campaign when I talk about the Canadian Research Council in a few moments here. So this wasn't the only image. There's a few. you guys listening on Spreaker, you need to come to the Facebook page or YouTube and have a look at these images. They're quite interesting. I've also requested a daytime photo because of this image here. I'm not quite sure if there's some sort of foliage or a tree in the foreground that might be creating this shadow. Things like that. So that's what's happened. That's happened in real time right now. Priscilla says, Nancy, would be nice to see you there at ACE. And yes, Nancy, it would be nice to see everybody at ACE. We look forward to ACE every single year. Hey, Dan, do you remember ACE last year when we had that situation where it was scary and unfamiliar? I don't want to elaborate on that, but I just want to see if you remember that. That was good times. Anyways, Priscilla says, looks like foliage in the way. Yep, it could be. Would love to, but I am in the U.S. Well, Nancy, maybe if one day I'll get the opportunity and an invitation to speak in the U.S., and then you'll be able to meet us then. Who knows? Right now, we're here. We're here in Canada in the igloos. No, just kidding. Okay. Well, not really. It's really cold right now. So, not much cases to talk about, but what I do want to talk about is, let's talk about these polls that I put up last week. Actually, no, let's do that no. Let's talk about the Research Council first. Dan says, "Oh yeah, I hope that guest returns with more experiences." I do hope she does return with experiences, but I hope she's got proof. And here's the, I hope she's got proof, and I hope that she's confident enough to show us right there at the table. But yeah, so guys, I'm going to talk about the Canadian Research Council of UFOs. I've talked about this on my very, very first episode. What this is, I'll explain it here for your listeners, okay? Our mission. So you can go to MUFONCanada.com/CRCU. What this is so our mission within the Canadian Research Council of UFOs is to provide conclusive evidence of the public, elected officials, and the media that unidentified flying objects are real. A global phenomenon that must be discussed, analyzed, and investigated at and throughout the highest levels of government in Canada. We will provide government-distributed documents from military, air traffic control, and NORAD officials that use specific terminology classifying UFO activity throughout the nation. A full list of these documents can be found here, and direct all questions and inquiries, requests, and interviews to the council members. And the council members are Victor Vigiani, who is the chairman, Stuart Bundy, who is also the co-chairman, who is our national director for MUFON Canada, myself, the investigative journalist, and Robert Shimon, who is also an investigative journalist. Now, why is this important? Well, when I click the list of documents here, Victor Vigiani, which you can find him on Zealand Communications. That's his jazz, and he's famous for contacting the Canadian government and with a Freedom of Information request and pulling out redacted information from NORAD. And on this page here, so CRCU-disclosure.html, you'll see all these documents. These documents, let me find one here. That's a good one. Let's just try the first one. Let's see what pops up. These documents here are confirmation that the RCMP, so it's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, acknowledge the existence of unidentified objects. Let me see here. Yeah, so here we have a report here. November 14th, 1968, Regina, Saskatchewan. The regarding subject says a UFO found in northern Saskatchewan. And the report here says, on 17 October 68, Mr. J. Hodges, Regional Representative, Associate Committee of Meteorites, National Research Council of Canada, 1554, blah, 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 personally delivered a metal fragment to the Regina Crime Detection Laboratory found by an unnamed pilot in the Wollaston Lake area of Saskatchewan, roughly 450 miles northeast of Prince Albert near the Manitoba border. Examination revealed the exhibit and likely formed part of a vehicle that traveled in outer space. Interested federal and provincial authorities are aware of the find, and it is understood Mr. Hodges will be conveying the material personally to the National Research Council in Ottawa. I'm attaching a copy of memorandum of the officer in detection, blah, 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 laboratories, etc. So that is just one file that Victor Viggiani was able to uncover from the Canadian government. All these files that you have here. Stephen Brooks is asking where ACE is. ACE is the Alien Cosmic Expo, and that can be found if you go to www.aliencosmicexpo.com. The details for the next ACE haven't been up yet, but it will be in Toronto. Okay. Don't worry. As soon as I got all the details, as soon as it's launched, and I know 100% the speakers and all that, I'll be talking about it every episode. So if you come back to the CRCU disclosure page, you got a plethora of all these documents that Victor has pulled out. And then underneath that, the Canadian Current Event Survey. This is the survey that I produced last year for 2017 data. I talked about that as well on my first episode. And what this is a detailed survey of all the cases that have been investigated by MUFON Canada. I believe 565, and out of those, 65 were unknown. So this report here is important because it's almost the end of 2018, and I'm going to be releasing the 2018 report. And what this national breakdown, this is our baseline. This basically gives me a statistic of where all these UFOs or unknowns have been landed and spotted and whatnot. And the purpose of this for my personal research, as well as the public information, is to, how many unknowns become knowns, right? So we're constantly learning. So I want to compare this information to learn more about these and narrow down the unknowns if possible, or stack the evidence against it. And the We Know campaign, which is what's on the mug here and my shirt, the hand within the hand with the shackles. The reason for that is so the idea is to tell the Canadian government that we know that there's aliens or spaceships out there or unidentified crafts out there. So instead of asking them, do aliens exist, we're asking them, are you aware that in Calgary, Alberta on January 29, 2017, that there was these objects in the sky? Are you aware that in Whitby, Ontario, on February 4, 2017, that these objects were in the sky? Are you aware that, let's go through here one more time. Are you aware that in Barrie, Ontario, on February 27, 2017, that this object was in the sky? So essentially what we have here are confirmed unidentified objects by Team Canada. And this survey is to pinpoint or display the fact that out of the 565 cases reported, 65 of these were unknown, and a handful of those 65 actually have physical documented evidence. That is part of the Canadian Research Council on UFOs. Now, last episode or the episode before, we talked about how I stumbled upon a Canadian aviation report that named a unidentified object, so record 39 on November 26, that delayed flight. So normally when I search this, I search for the keyword drone. Drone is code sometimes for unidentified flying objects or UFOs or UAPs. I search for foreign objects. 9 times out of 10, a foreign object is a dead bird or something on the ground, which is not good. But I mean that seems to be the code that they use. But a foreign object also could be something from outer space. So I still check that keyword. But this particular time, I found unidentified object. Dan Jones says, it's no longer about disclosure. We just want confirmation, please. And yes, Dan, I agree with you. And this, to me, in my perspective, this is part of confirmation. Because if we ask the government, are you aware that there was an object on February 27, 2017 in the sky in Barrie, Ontario, they have to answer that question. If they deny it, that's confirmation. But the follow-up question is, if they say, yes, we were aware, then that's fine. Because that doesn't mean it's alien, doesn't mean it's UFO, it doesn't mean it's government. It's just they know it's there. If they don't know, then I would question the Air Force or their ability to protect unidentified objects coming in our airspace, whether it's alien or human-made. So, you know, we're going to get into the polls here soon about questioning, but it's not so much the question. You got to ask the right questions to the right person at the right time, and they'll have to answer. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because, let me go through here and close these. I can give you a little tid peek. Here's the 2018 survey, real quick zoom through here. So we're currently at 367 reported cases, a little slower year than last year for the 2018. The reason why I brought up the Canadian Research Council on UFOs is because there is a Access to Information and Privacy, ATIP, online request. Victor Vigiani and myself will be putting together an official request to the aviation report to get the records for that unidentified object. And when we get that record back, we're going to pull Victor's going to do his thing and pull those redacted documents from NORAD like he's done all these other ones. The only difference is between the ones he's done in the past is I'm going to be a sidekick on this one for the first time, which I'm really excited about, and I'm going to see the master in work. And hopefully it's something good, because, you know, like, nobody reads these reports. It's available to the public, but nobody spends the time looking at it, right? I get an email every day. I spend some time looking through these things for these reasons, and I just happen to find a freaking needle in a haystack, and I'm really hoping. Nancy asked if there is a aviation report for the USA. I'm sure there is. You got to forgive me that I am Canadian, and I am not too familiar with the way the United States does their things. I'm a homebody, you know. I don't venture too far from Canadian borders, but I'm sure there is. Just Google, American aviation reports. I'm sure you'll find something. So that is what's going to happen soon. All right. So I will update you all with information on that. And if you want to see, I think there's a link here. Yeah, let's see. Oh no, sorry, that's his email. Pardon me, ignore that. So you can find Victor Vigiani on Zealand Communications. Another thing I want to talk to you guys about too, December 13th, which is today, and for the next few days, the Geminids meteor shower. That is happening. So if you guys are reporting or out in the sky and you're looking for the next few days and you see something that looks strange and unusual, it's probably a meteor, right? We get these reports all these times, like all the times, and when we get reports like this around the same times, we usually, we know that they're meteors. But, do us a favor. We're volunteers. We don't get paid for this. We still got to do our due diligence and double check to make sure that's a meteor, even though we know it's a meteor. But do your due diligence. If you're seeing something in the sky that looks like a meteor during this time, please do not report it, because we know what it is, right? And you should know what it is, and educate yourself. I want to spend more time investigating authentic stuff too, because like a lot of reports that come in are stars. A lot of things that come in are meteors. A lot of things that come in are satellites. And it's very easy to determine those with an app on your phone. But if you guys do report it, we do spend our time and due diligence to prove it wrong. 9 times out of 10, it is exactly what we think it is, but we still have to check anyways. So yeah, that's just my little tidbit to make our investigators' lives a little easier. But if you still report it, we'll still access it. We'll still do what we need to do, and we'll still treat it properly. All right, so let's get into our polls. Yeah, shooting stars, Nancy. That's exactly what it would be. Meteors are essentially shooting stars. Ignore that. That was from a few days ago. Anyways, let's talk about this poll first. So I did a poll after last week's episode. Yeah, Stan Jones says these meteors move a little slower, so could be mistaken for a craft, and that's absolutely right. Yes, and as I mentioned before, Dan Jones is one of the investigators here in Ontario. He is a phenomenal investigator, and I don't say this enough, Dan. Thank you so much for helping me out. You're the only one who's been helping me out lately with cases, so like rock on, man. Everyone's been busy. Everyone's been busy, but that's okay. So this poll I put up, and actually, you know what? I'm gonna try to do polls often because you guys seem to respond to polls. I like interaction. I like feedback. And this is good. I'm on episode 13, and I'm learning as I go too. You know, I'm running out of time. I'm actually excited and enjoying this episode. So this poll here for you guys listening on Spreaker, it was on my Facebook page, and it says, who has seen Bob Lazar, Area 51, and flying saucers and learned something you didn't know before? Please, no spoilers. I will be watching this over the weekend. Stay tuned. And I have 30 votes here, and 27% of them said they learned something new, and 73% of them said they learned something old. Now, I'm going to try and be careful here because I don't want to give any spoilers to anyone listening to this or watching this that hasn't seen the movie yet. But I have found, so when we watched the movie over on the weekend, two of us, my uncle and myself, have known the Bob Lazar story, and two individuals, Priscilla and a friend of ours, Jarvis, had not seen it or known anything about it. So at the end, the consensus within the group is the two people who didn't know anything thought it was a phenomenal and an amazing movie. But me, myself, and as well as my Uncle Brad were a little bit disappointed because there, again, was nothing new. So again, yeah, Priscilla loved it because that was her first time hearing the story. And you know what? And that's the thing. So the filmmaker industry is great. It's awesome. It is a well done, put together movie or a documentary. I shouldn't say movie. And it explains the Bob Lazar story in so much detail. If you do not know the story, I do recommend you watching this instead of the interview. But if you've already seen the interview from 1989 or whenever the hell that happened, it's the same thing. It is. So don't ruin it for yourself. I mean, you know, that's just my opinion on that. And I put the poll up here, and the poll shows, you know, I'm not the only one who believes that. But again, I am finding that the people who haven't seen it and learning about it, so it's also about getting the information out there. So even though it's nothing new, it is important. But again, the whole part of doing this, the survey, the current survey, my approach with disclosure is to talk about what's happening right now. I know Area 51 happened. Everyone talks about it. We always come back to Area 51. That's old freaking news, right? If the government were to come out and say Area 51, yeah, we do that. Well, it doesn't matter. We already knew that. You know, we still got to pay attention to what's in our skies right now. Like I said, the cases we talked about earlier were from 7 days ago. 7 days ago. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about the cases that get reported, and we need to, and that's why I do this. Priscilla says, I've heard of Area 51, but the details make it believable. Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to say, you know. And Vern Sinclair, hi, Ryan. Hey, Vern, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Wow, I got 6 viewers this time. I think that's a record. Awesome. Nancy, we'll look for it, although it sounds familiar. Yeah, no, you can purchase it on iTunes for just get the $14.99 version. You don't need to pay the extra $5 for the HD version unless you need to wear glasses. But I mean, you know, if you want the information, it's there. But I mean, if you don't have any money and you want the info, just look up the interview. The interview is free. and get the info. I don't want to spoil it for those who want to purchase it. And again, if you do, there's nothing wrong with purchasing the video. It's just, in my opinion, when you purchase it, you're supporting the artwork, the artist industry, which is good, right? This is why we go to the movies, to support the industry. But I mean, for me and my mandate and my mission, I don't believe that this information you should pay to get information, especially if it's the same shit. So pardon my language, but that's just the way that it is. Now, Priscilla says that I wear glasses. Well, I'm not saying I wear glasses, but have you ever seen me in the same room? I don't think so. I don't have any glasses. The only glasses I wear, Priscilla, are aviators. I look pretty good in those, don't I? So, the other poll that I put up was more interesting. Michael Elzinga. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Nice to see you. You're a little late, though. Show's almost over. Hope you watch the replay. This other poll, I had a reaction that I wasn't expecting. And the question was, when it comes to researching which group of questions which group of questions are more important, please explain in the comments. All right, I will be talking about this in episode 13. So you have two choices here: who, what, where, and when, how, and why. And out of the votes, we have 10 who say who, what, where, when, and why, and only one person that says how and why. Now, the comments, one person, Penny Shepard, says that they're all equally important, which could be true. Michael, good, just in time. You popped on for me to talk about your comment. How and why could be incredibly subjective, still useful, but more importantly are the facts you would get with the first set of questions. Now, the reason why I asked this is because I knew that majority of the people would choose who, what, where, and when, because that's what we're trained for. I wanted to see more of how and why, and I'll explain. So the questions who, what, where, and when are more of a question asked when you want to find something specific. All right, interruption here. Roger P. signs in and says, Ryan, I spoke to Steve Bassett, and he said 2019 will be Disclosure Fest. Big things coming. You and everyone helping with this stuff is critical for the upcoming events and news. Great stuff. Keep this up. Well, thank you, Roger. And I'm small fish compared to Stephen Bassett. So, don't forget about me. I'm doing this too, but we're all in this together. Okay, so I got 70s now. Awesome. So the who, what, where, and when are specifics. The how and why, in my opinion, are very, very, very important. And the reason for that is understanding. So when we get a UFO report, we want to know who reported it, what it was, where it happened, and when it happened. And the reason why we want to know who, what, where, and when is so we can kind of figure out, is the person credible? Is the object or the scenario reliable or probable? Is the location, can I go to this location? When did it happen? Did it happen again? These are specific. But the questions that are never asked are how and why. So if the object is in the sky and it's hovering or it's moving sporadically, right? Everybody asks first, who is it? What is it? Where is it? When is it? But how is the question you need to ask. How is it moving the way that it's moving? Why is it moving the way that it's moving? And you can apply this concept with anything. Like, let me think for an example. Like, my head hurts. Instead of asking, where or when my head hurts, it'd be like, why does my head hurt? Well, my head hurts because I didn't eat or I'm dehydrated. Why and how are important, because when you ask those how and why questions, and if you get answers, then you're probably going to figure out what exactly is going on. If you come to an I don't know, then you probably need to go back and ask these questions again. So anyways, there's a huge, I just thought it was interesting. So in my opinion, I think how and why are the most important questions to ask. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter when. Why is this event happening? How is this event happening? Let's look at an alien abduction. Okay? Doesn't matter who got abducted. Doesn't matter they got abducted, when they got abducted, or what they are abducted for. How were they abducted, and why were they abducted? Those are the questions. Because this stuff is happening so many times now. So many times. So it doesn't matter who, what, where, or when. It matters how. We need to figure out how it's happening and why it's happening. And once we understand why it's happening and how it's happening, we may be able to prevent it, or we may be able to capture it or document it, or we may be able to accept it. So when the government lies to us, who's lying to us? Government. What are they lying about? Doesn't matter. Where are they lying? Everywhere, when, all the time. But how are they lying and why are they lying? That's important. If we understand why the government lies to us, that might be a little easier pill to swallow. So some comments here while I was ranting here. Priscilla says, when is important most of all? When is important? It depends on what question, it depends on what answer you're trying to get. Vern says, how about where? As in my case, where there has no craft visible. My case, where. So, where, yeah. Sorry, Vern, I'm having a hard time understanding what you wrote. Try that again. People are talking, Roger P. says, people are talking about this all over the place and within many groups. It's awesome stuff. Yeah, that's true. It's all over the place. Nancy, think we've been watched for a millennium. Yeah, that's possible, Nancy, for sure. Roger P. says, I hate that cat and mouse game. Well, who's the cat and who's the mouse? Right? And why are we, So anyways, when you investigate anything, the most important thing to do is think about the seven liberal arts. In Masonry, that's all that's important. Everything after the seven liberal arts is a subdivision, per se. And those seven liberal arts that are important to investigating or understanding anything are grammar, okay, which is the structure and language of languages in general. Why we use the certain words that we use, that's important. And why we use certain words when we choose to use it, okay. Rhetoric is the next liberal, which why we use certain words to persuade or speaking. So we need to listen to the tone and all that. Logic, the reason for why we say the things that we say, or the reason why things are happening, or the validity. Arithmetic, which is the mathematics into the probability of why certain things happen. Geometry, which is the the shape that it takes based on the mathematical principles. Music is important because it is the art or the sound or the reaction from or the beautification of mathematics, logic, and reasoning. And last but not least, the most important thing, liberal arts, is astronomy, right, which is the science branch of any celestial objects in space. And that comes back, those seven liberal arts come back to not just in Masonry, but come back to ancient Sumerian times. Those are the seven sciences that they perfected. Everything else after that is just subdivisions. Those are the things you need to focus on. All right. So now we're near the end. And I believe I have 7 minutes left. And so let's talk about the questions here. What do we got going? Every guys are a chatty bunch, so let's just keep talking about the questions here. So Priscilla says, when looking in the sky, it is important to know what and where was there a certain time. Therefore, what time helps a lot is determining the placement of stars and planets at the time. Yes, Priscilla, that is right. Planets, you mean? Ah, plants. Yes. So that's what I was trying to say, Sil, is who, what, where, and when is needed when you're trying to identify something. But once you identify it, you can't forget to ask how or why it's in a place. This is what we're talking about with the unidentified objects and stuff, right? Dan Jones, right? Nancy says, if you know any other language and listen, they are pretty similar. Yeah, French, Spanish are similar to each other. Italian, or I guess that's Spanish, same thing. Don't quote me on that one. It's all dialect too, but you got to remember the original language was in cuneiform, right? And stone tablets of symbols, ancient symbols was the original language. Mathematics is the oldest language. Dan Jones says, I wonder if there's any kind of study or record of the blood types of people who have been abducted. Dan, that is a good loaded question. I do know that of the Rh negative or the Rh blood or genes or whatnot, there seems to be a connection with the ancient Sumerians. Off the top of my head, I do not know, but that is a good, interesting question. I do have like 7 abduction cases that I'm writing my book in, and asking them for their blood type might not be a bad idea to see if there's some comparison. I have O positive. I believe Priscilla's O negative. So she has the Rh gene. So that's probably why she's all magical super being. Not me though. There's bloodlines are important too. And Michael Elzinga says, I like the Buddhist Eightfold Path as well. Yes. Buddhists are calm. Yes, they keep it simple. That's the most important thing. Is when we expand, we go, and then to solve a lot of these mysteries and stuff, we got to stay focused, and we need to be specific, and we need to ask the right question at the right time to the right person. A lot of people wonder too much, or they elaborate too much, or they expand too much. We need to get right down to the nitty-gritty, and that's why I created the probability chart. So when I watched the Bob Lazar thing, I had this chart where I would write my concerns, and I would write the things I would like, and then at the end I would do mathematics, and based on I knew that I was disappointed with the movie. But at the end, with my mathematics, it proved to me that I actually enjoyed 79% of it, and 21% of it I doubted or didn't enjoy. But before I did the calculation, I thought I enjoyed less, and I was disappointed more. But math doesn't lie. Right question for the right thing, right? So that's logic and whatnot. Dan Jones is Rh negative. Yeah? Wow, buddy. So you might be an alien. Are you on the right side? Are you with us? Roger P says, yes, Ryan, you were right. I'm not quite sure what I'm right about. I'm talking about a lot. Priscilla asks Michael Elzinga if he is vegan or vegetarian, and Michael says he is vegetarian working towards vegan. So that's an interesting thought. Priscilla has recently decided to go vegan, and that is an amazing thing for her. That is tricky thing to do. I'm trying to help. This is my first full day with. I don't think I can do vegan. I can do vegetarian. I'm going to try. But there are studies that say that, poison in her food and stuff like that too. So basically the reason why I'm trying to do it, A, is for an experimentation. B, to try and make it easier for Priscilla. I don't think she needs my help anyway. She's a lot stronger at doing this than I am. I've actually personally read studies that the cognitive impairment, like we are sheeple because of the foods that we eat. So I'm almost wondering that if not to toot my own horn, but if I'm as intelligent as I am on the subject currently, I can only hope that I am more intelligent if I'm able to clean and cleanse my brain. That is the reason why I'm doing it, but it's extremely hard. Today I had the shivers. I had to pull over, and Priscilla had to drive the rest of the way home. Like, I mean, like I was, I'm out for the count, and I don't even know how I'm still going. But anyways, there's so many things we could talk about. So it's very interesting that the Roger Priest and the RH negative, like, I don't know, like, you guys are chatty. You got 7 of you guys here. Like, do you guys want me to go overtime? We can keep talking. It's 9 o'clock. Let's keep chatting. So, Michael says, I about sending DNA into Ancestry.com and getting MIB at your door. Well, Michael, Priscilla and I both did the Ancestry thing, and we haven't had MIB show up to our door yet. And I think we found out that we are both Irish. Yes, I did not know that I was Irish before then. And yeah. Roger P says, peace all, keep disclosure coming, keep talking this stuff soon. Yeah. Vern Sinclair says, just a quick note, I'm looking into hypnosis regression therapy here in Victoria. I'll let you know what I find out. Hey, Vern, I have a contact here in Ontario. Her name is Leslie Mitchell-Clark. She has done regression therapy for a few of our MUFON clients. And she is very good at doing her sessions over the phone or via Skype. So if you if you want to physically go in a room and go through that stuff, by all means. But if you're having any luck or not having any luck and you want to try if you want to try her over the phone, I can definitely hook you up. Just send me an email. All right. And then I do know she does charge for her services, but if I go through MUFON, she'll give you a discount, and she might even do it for free. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. Okay. Vegetarian with moderate meat consumption. Yes. All right. So we're at the top of the hour. It's 9:01. Unless anyone else has a question to talk about, I'll wait for the video to catch up here, and we'll go from there. Keep going. Well, Nancy, I will keep going, but what do you want to talk about? What would you like to talk about? Anyone notice my poster in the background? Well, there is a theory out there that the Sumerians actually were, and Anunnaki were actually from Atlantis. And Atlantis is connected to the fish gods, and the fish gods are connected to Enki, and Enki is connected to Sumerians. Sumerians are connected to Anunnaki, and Anunnaki is connected to all that stuff. Lights, coins. You gotta elaborate, Nancy. Nancy says lights and coins. What do you mean by that? Lisa Savoy says Leslie is wonderful. Yes, she is. She is. I was almost falling asleep when she was trying to do the regression therapy there on my first guy there. Okay, so Nancy wants to talk about Atlantis. When they show up. What are you talking about? So, I don't know, what are you talking about Atlantis? Atlantis is known to be, see, I'm not prepped on this one, it's known to be a mysterious or a civilization that doesn't exist or has yet to be found, but everyone talks about it. All the civilizations from across the world have made notation in their on their walls and in their Bibles and their scriptures, that a central continent exists within the Atlantic Ocean or somewhere in between. There's lots of theories on the location. There's also lots of evidence of sunken land and sunken treasures and things like that. The idea of a superstructure continent existing is definitely possible. However, you got to look at the interesting things about how Atlantis may have become destroyed. So there's a theory behind. So Zachary Sitchin in 12th Planet talks about the idea that the center of Atlantis was actually a rocket ship. So the description of Atlantis had rings. Maybe I can find one here for you viewers to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Michael, I saw your question. I will talk about that in a second. I'm just scrolling through to find the image I'm talking about. Yeah, this one will do. So this is the common image that, or depiction of Atlantis, which is a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle. Now there are some theories that suggest that this is mimicking the actual solar system, and the center is the sun. And then each mote represents the orbit or the space in between each individual orbit. And in Atlantis, there, when each of them had their mounts or their temples or their thrones, represents each of the stars, or sorry, each of the planets, which is why we have some of the Roman and Greek gods who parallel not just their names as well as planets. Jupiter, was Zeus, and Pluto was Hades, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, there's a theory out there that Atlantis was circummed by not an avalanche, a tidal wave, drowned in the water. It had been hit by a meteorite. It had exploded with the volcano in the center, and it had disappeared and sunken. Now, or an earthquake had brought it down. Now, there is a theory. Now, what do you call it? Zachary Sitchin talks about it in the 12th Planet, and theorizes that there was actually a rocket ship in the center of Atlantis. And based on his analysis of that, I've come to the conclusion that the description of the demise of Atlantis is a combination of all three. If Atlantis had a rocket ship in the center and it were to take off, it would cause the ground beneath it to quake, which is why we have an earthquake, which is seen from one part of the world. That earthquake would displace the water, which would cause the water to consume, or tidal wave, which is another reason or explanation for it to happen. And then when the rocket actually leaves the center, you would see the fire and brimstone, which is actually the rocket or the jet fuel from the rocket as it enters into space. So when that catastrophe happens or cataclysm happens all at the same time, and different people from all around the world seeing different things at the same different time and telling different stories, it's easy to have the broken telephone game. And if that theory is accurate, it also would make sense why everyone searches for Atlantis and we can't find it, because maybe Atlantis isn't here, maybe it's in space. So yeah, I wasn't prepared to talk about Atlantis, but maybe on a future episode I'll do some refreshing and research, and we can talk more about it. So Michael says, what is your opinion about starseeds? Well, that's back to RH negative and all that stuff. So by definition, let's look that up get my bearings here. Not that I don't know what it is. It's just for those who don't know what we're talking about. So a starseed is a term used to describe a soul who is incarnated on planet Earth yet comes from somewhere else, another galaxy, another dimension, timeline, or plane of existence. So my official opinion on that is I believe that's possible. For some reason, my entire life, I have always been obsessed with Atlantis. I have a calling and a calming sensation to water. I have a hard time swimming. I'm not really the best swimmer, fancy that. But I seem to find a lot of peace and calming, and I do have a lot of dreams that that seem real, that I know are in areas of this Earth, or perhaps another Earth or planet that I have yet to explore, but yet they seem familiar. And another thing too is I'm also very obsessed with Greek mythology or ancient mythology, Egyptology. I play the Assassin's Creed games religiously because of the in-depth character of that. Plus, it's got a Masonic link. Becoming a Mason as well. I'm the first person in my family to ever become a Mason. I thought my grandfather was a Mason, and I did a search, and turns out he's not. I'm actually the only person. So, like, I feel some sense of calling towards a certain direction, towards this illuminated lightness thing, or star child, or star seed, or light worker, however you want to call it. Now, to say that I'm from another timeline or plane of existence or dimension, it's possible. I mean, I do feel like I am an old soul in a young body. I'm sure Priscilla can explain for herself, but I'm pretty sure she feels the same, or similar, that we may have came from somewhere else, and here we are following a path right now to do what we need to do. But there's no that that could be faith, that could be logic. I don't believe I've been I'm on any set path or anything. I'm just doing what comes from the heart, and the heart's led me here. The heart's making me do this. The heart is the reason why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. I'm heating the world. If that's because I'm a star seed, then maybe I am. Are you? That's up for you guys to figure out. Do star seeds exist? I believe that's possible. Us illuminated people, or the light workers, as you want to call it, those who do good, or those who do what we are doing, like what I do. I'm not the only person who does this. There's lots of other people, but the traits that we have, I believe those characteristics are similar to starseed, or if not the same. But did they come from another galaxy? Then now we're talking about souls, man. We're talking about spiritual. We're talking about consciousness. We're talking about stuff that was supernatural, stuff that has yet to be proven. So, I'm in a rabbit hole here, but I'm not sure about star seeds, but I feel that connected to that word in some way. If that makes any sense. Priscilla had replied to Michael's comment, saying she was meditating recently before falling asleep, started weeping uncontrollably for the world and all the suffering of people and animals. I woke up completely unable to eat animal produce and products. I will no longer support the suffering. And you know what? Whether that is a subconscious thought or just her heart, it's making a healthy decision, I support that. You're a brave girl. Dan Jones says, do you think the Atlanteans left Earth? No, I don't think anyone. It's maybe not all of them, maybe some of them. Here's the question, Dan. Like, why would they leave Earth? We spend so much time looking upstairs for answers, and we've only discovered like 10% of the sea, of the ocean. I bet you there's more downstairs in the water, or that we even know, because it's easier to look up than it is to go down. I strongly think that the answers may be in the water. If you guys have seen the recent Aquaman trailer, which is what that poster is, by the way, Aquaman, comes out December 21st. Don't ask me how I got that poster. Anyways, the commercials prelude into the fact that there's a lot of ancient Sumerian ties to that, so I'm really interested. I'm a huge DC fan anyways. So, okay, what's next? Vernon Sinclair says, it's absolutely amazing what a person can learn when keeping an open mind. Yeah, that is true. Nancy Sauter says, I absolutely believe we came from the stars. Zachariah Sitchin, I keep quoting him a lot, man. But in his 12th Planet, I'm not trying to plug that book. Start with that book, man. He claims and he states that we are 90%. The material that we are, molecules that we have, 90% of those are not from our planet. and we, like 10% of that are actually from Earth. There's even a theorized that the atom and the destruction of Earth, or the catalysm of Sodom and Gomorrah and all that stuff, happened on Mars, not Earth, and we refuge to Earth. Like there's, read the books, read the Bible. The Bible tells you everything you need to know. You just got to read it with an open mind. Michael Elzinga says, I live in a rabbit hole. Yeah, well, I get into many rabbit holes, and sometimes it's hard to get out of them. That's, when it's like when somebody asks me, hey, can you investigate this? I'm read through, and if I don't know what it is, I don't go, oh, goody. I go, fuck. Why? Because I know that I'm going to dig, and I'm going to dig until I figure out what it is. And if I don't come out of it, like Lisa Salvo, for an example, I do apologize. I did say I would talk about your experience on one of our shows. I'm going to write that down. But, I mean, like, that was a rabbit hole. Her case is, I still have a regression session I need to listen to. But, like the story, I keep saying story, but like the experience or the, let's say, adventure that she encountered is intriguing, and that's a rabbit hole. Like, I mean, I gotta pull myself out of a rabbit hole, go back down another rabbit hole, come in. We're going on a little bit of a rant here, so you guys don't mind. I got 5 years going. I'll keep talking until we die out here. Ryan, you missed my comment on my experience. She replied to that. Sorry, Michael. I obviously did. Thanks for calling me out on that. Priscilla says, energy, we are all made. Yes, we are all energy. I believe that. Dan Jones says, I think you have been called to do what you are doing, so thank you. Well, thanks, Dan. To be completely honest, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Where this comes from is, like, I know I do a lot more than I need to do. Where this comes from is awareness. A lot of people are doing what I do to get popular, to get noticed, to earn income. All those things, will come with time, but it's not the goal. Awareness is key. A lot of this stemmed from people who want to join organizations like MUFON. They want to get the information, they want to know, but they can't afford it. And because they can't afford it, they don't have access to this information. So the reason why I do this, whether this is a calling or not, it's straight from the heart that people deserve to know the truth, or at least know something. I pay my dues just like you, right, for access to the information, right? I could close the cases and not talk about it. I do this weekly. After talking to Priscilla about it, why are we doing it? I'm doing this to educate, to learn, to teach. I ain't no expert. I'm learning every single day. This is my 13th show. I'm still shooting. I'm shooting the breeze. It's not non-professional about this at all. But my point and the mission is to heat the world, to tell everyone to believe and to accept, and just start looking for themselves. And you say thank you. Well, I say thank each and every one of you guys for reporting, because if you guys didn't report to MUFON, or some of you guys report to me directly, if you guys didn't report to me to give me something to share, I wouldn't be able to do this. So I thank all of you. Furnace Claire said, I once had the most incredible past life memory, whatever it would be, called back when I was only about 5 years old, and I hadn't even heard of such a thing at the point in my young life. So I can only ascertain that there is just got to be something to it. Well, Vern, do you want to share that past life to the class? And we'll talk about it. Priscilla says, look at the comment of Michael that I was replying to. He too experiencing the same thing and becoming a vegetarian. Coincidence? I think not. I'm trying to be a vegetarian too. I'm trying. That stuff is hard. I'm used to eating, I enjoy eating bad things for my body, but I actually feel not too bad by not eating meat today. It's weird though. Nancy says, thank you, Ryan and Priscilla. You are welcome. Lisa is meeting with Leslie in March, and Nancy wants to hear the experience from Vern. And Michael says, you're definitely doing great work. Very much appreciate it all. Thank you. No worries. And, don't just thank me. You got to thank Priscilla, because, Priscilla's downstairs in my house watching me talk to all of you, and it's taking time away from us, but we're still together. And this means a lot to her as well. We both care so much about the world and the people inside, and we're just doing our part, whether it's influential or not. And so unless anyone else has any other questions here, I'll give you guys some time to ask any questions. If not, we'll say goodnight. All right. Well, nobody's saying anything. No one's typing anything. Next week will be the 20th, which will be the last show before the Christmas break. Because let me check the calendar here. It'll be the 27th, which would be Priscilla and I will be away for her family. Okay, so Vern bopped in his question here, right at the buzzer. I was on a camping trip and playing along the side of a creek, and when I had the strong urge to look up on the top of the hill, and I saw myself as in Indian. I think he means Indian, maybe? Question mark. Michael says, we kept you long enough. Until next time, take care and good night. Priscilla says, you're putting yourself out there. Most couldn't do what you do. I couldn't. You make us feel like we have a family outside of this cruel injustice society. All right, guys. I am tired. I'm sorry. I'm 20 minutes overdue. I am going to call it. You guys, most of you guys are saying good night. Thank you for being chatty. Please be chatty every time. I like this. I like that we can talk. Ask your questions while I'm talking, because I need stuff to talk about. Next week will be the 20th, which will be the last one, and then I'll see you all in the new year. So if you guys are around here, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Coexist, everything, whatever you're celebrating this time of year or not celebrating, just be well. Take care of each other. Keep your eyes in the sky and heed the world. All right? Peace out, everybody. Have a good night.
Every day we see, hear, and experience strange and unusual things. We have asked, we have begged, we have cried for answers from our governments to reveal, acknowledge, and confirm that we're not alone. We need to change our perspective on disclosure. We need to rise and stand tall. We need to stop asking and start acting. We know that you know, and that you won't tell us. So join me next week as we continue to search, as we continue to share, as we continue to grow. We're in this together, and you're not alone. We know you know. Thanks for looking up, everybody. Keep your eyes in the sky and heed the world.